There's been a lot of talk online lately about the traditional wife or the trad wife. And I want to put my 2 cents worth in here because I did that for a little bit. I know if you know anything about my life, you might be saying, what? No way. Because, yeah, I toured the country, well, the world actually, dancing in clubs, and I posed in magazines, or made movies and all that stuff. But after that, my first husband and I were divorced. And by the time we got divorced, I had 2 kids. And it took me like 7 years before I was ready to settle down with someone again. And that's another story in and of itself. But I did finally find a guy that I thought was, pretty cool. And I fell in love. And we got married and we settled down. And I had 18 acres in southern Indiana that was 17 miles from the closest gas station. And we had horses, dogs, rabbits, cats, kids. I had another son with him. And I had a huge garden. I planted all kinds of things. And I did the Native American traditional thing. So I planted corn, beans, and squash in the traditional way. I was, involved with the Lost River Band of the Cherokees and eventually elected to the position of Blessed Woman for them. So a lot of the people of the Lost River Band were so kind. And one time, one of them dropped off the rear quarter of a deer that he had hunted, and I was able to butcher that. Another time someone dropped off a deer skin, and I made a little stretching rack for that, and, took care of the skin, and that kind of thing. I did all kinds of arts and crafts, traditional Native American things to get my regalia ready for powwow dancing. I canned food. I had an herb garden because I was very much into herbal healing and trying to do things naturally. So I grew a lot of my own herbs for my herbal recipes, like you might see the 2 jars back there. And that's something that I still have, these herbal recipes. So I really enjoyed being the traditional wife for a while, canning my own food and that kind of thing. But while there's a lot to be said for being a traditional wife, there are a lot of drawbacks too. And you have to be aware that while you're doing all of this wonderful work, your husband, your partner, has to be working equally hard for the family. So like I'm ironing his shirts in the morning so that when he goes to work, he looks good and professional. But if he only goes to work 2 or 3 days a week, somebody's not pulling their weight here. If he doesn't bring his money home from work and spend it on things like the mortgage and paying the utility bills and stuff like that, something's gonna, it's not working. And I want to say something else. Even if it seems to be working for a while, eventually, if you end up getting divorced for, I don't know what reason, maybe someone contacts you on Facebook and says, your husband is having an affair with my wife, and tells you the exact times and dates and places that they've had sex. Gee, that's rather specific, isn't it? I wonder where that came from. Anyway, if that should happen and you get divorced, you're left holding the bag. Because when it comes down to Social Security and retirement, if you don't have a long work history, you can't draw off of Social Security. And if you should get disabled, you're in the same bag. Now, there are survivor's benefits. And if you're married to someone for enough years, even if you get divorced, you're entitled to survivor's benefits. But he has to either die or be retired before you can collect on that. And I'm not sure exactly which is, because I've never been able to collect on any of that because neither of my exes are dead or retired. So I'm left drawing, because I'm, disabled, and I'm drawing on Social Security retirement funds right now for my disability. So that has to be my work history, only mine. Not any of my 2 ex-husbands. That doesn't count towards it at all. So being a traditional wife, you could be cutting off your nose to spite your face in the long run if you think there's a chance, and there's always a chance. Look at it. I mean, 50% or more of the marriages today are going to end in divorce. So, protect yourself, because this could fall apart if he doesn't pull his weight. If you're doing all these wonderful things, having all these beautiful children, using cloth diapers like I did, hanging clothes out on the line, canning food, growing your own food, taking care of everything in the house, he's got to pull his weight too. And God forbid that while you're watching the kids and taking care of the house so he can go to work, he's actually having an affair, then you're screwed. You are really screwed in so many different ways, not just today, because now you have to go get a job and you've got a gap in your work history, but further down the line when you collect Social Security. And if he's supposed to be paying the bills and you're just counting on him to do that and you're not following through, you don't know. He could be saying, oh, yeah, I paid it. Don't worry about it. Worry about it. Make sure. Because you could find out you're 6 months late on your mortgage and you're getting kicked out and you thought it was getting paid all along. And that just happens to be the time where he decides to leave. So now you're getting divorced, he's left you and the kids, and you're getting kicked out of your house. I mean, this can really backfire very badly if you're not careful. So I was lucky because I had made a lot of money before I went into the traditional wife thing. The house was mine. It was paid off and it was mine. I mean, it wasn't worth much. It was in the middle of nowhere, and land was cheap there. I mean, it was 100-year-old one-bedroom cabin when we bought it. So it wasn't like I had a mansion, but at least I had that. And when we got divorced and I found out he was cheating on me and everything all fell apart, I had something to fall back on. So I wasn't left to fend for myself like many traditional women might be, traditional wives might be in that situation. So take care of yourself. Expect the unexpected. Don't just count on things to always be beautiful and happy and lovely and romantic, because the one constant in the universe is things will change. So be prepared for them to change and, take care of yourself and your kids accordingly.